Bright Cutie. Every student matters.
Now children, the next and very important topic that we have, or the methods of separation that we have, are sedimentation, decantation and filtration, and all the three processes are quite related children, so we are going to study them together so that you get the better understanding of each of the process. So children, sedimentation is the process in which a heavier component in a mixture settles down after the water is added, and this process is called as sedimentation. Okay, so let us discuss this with the help of an example. Suppose we have a beaker and we have sand in it, okay, and we mix some water, say 2 glasses of water in this. Okay, when we mix water in this, the sand will ultimately settle down at the bottom, right? After some time, even if you mix it really well, after some time you will observe that sand settles down at the bottom. Okay children, and this because the sand is heavier and it do not mix with water. So children, the component which settles down at the bottom is known as sediment. So sand is the sediment here. Okay, this is the sediment. Now children, we can separate this sediment or sand from the water. How? Just by tilting this beaker. As you can observe in this diagram, you will just tilt it very carefully that this sand particle do not get disturbed, and only the water is transferred or poured into some other container, and this sand will be left behind in the first beaker in the form of sediment, right? And this process wherein we are separating the sediment from water, this process is known as decantation. So let's just read how we can do this. When the water is removed, the process is called as decantation, right? After this children, you will observe that even after decantation, the sand has some amount of water in it, right? And how we can now separate this mixture of sand and water? We can separate it by the process of filtration. We can separate it by the process of filtration, which is a process of separating solids from liquid by passing it through a medium only a liquid can pass. For example, we can use a filter paper. We will discuss this activity in detail in the next activity. For now, I am just telling you that we have a filter paper. It has small pores in it which allows only water to pass through it, whereas the sand will be left behind in this paper. So we fold it in such a manner that it forms a conical shape, and we place this filter paper in this funnel. And now we will add the mixture of water and sand and allow it to pass through the filter paper, and we will observe that we can separate water from the mixture of sand. Sand will be left behind in the filter paper, whereas water can be collected in some other beaker. So children, these were the three processes: sedimentation, decantation and filtration.
Till now we have studied what is a sediment, the process of sedimentation, then decantation, and finally the process of filtration. Now with the help of an activity, we will understand by doing this experiment. But before that, let me explain you that the same principle of decantation can also be used to separate two liquids that do not mix. As we have just discussed, in this we make use of the densities of the two liquids. That is, suppose if we have a mixture of oil and water, and we know that these two do not mix completely, that is, they will form two different layers, and we can separate them by the process of decantation, as oil will be forming the topmost layer and water will be at the bottom layer. This will be water. So by the process of decantation, we can remove this layer of oil and we can separate the two liquids which are not soluble, or we call them immiscible. Okay students, I hope that you would have understood this. Let us now move ahead and understand the process of sedimentation, decantation and filtration with the help of an activity. So in this activity, you will have to collect some muddy water from a pond or a river, and if you do not have a river or a pond near you, what you can do, you can take some small amount of water and add soil to it. and we have already done it for you. As you can observe, this is a mixture of soil and water. Initially we tried to mix it by stirring, but since they do not mix with one another, we have let it stand for some time, and you can observe that sand or this soil has settled down at the bottom of this container or the beaker, and this soil is known as sediments, and this process is known as sedimentation. So let us now move ahead and try and understand that what is decantation. Now I'll take one more container and uh, try to separate the two mixtures, that is soil from water, by the method of decantation. I will slightly tilt this beaker, and without disturbing the soil, I'll try to remove it from the soil. As you can see, we have completely separated soil from water, but you can still see that this mixture or this water appears to be cloudy. That is, all of the soil components have not been completely removed from this. So what we can try filtration. So let us, I'll just mix, I'll put this water back, and you can observe that this complete mixture is this soil is not soluble in water, and I'll let it stand for some time so that this soil settles down or sediments to the bottom of the beaker. And by the time it settles down, I'll introduce to you what is a filter paper. So students, filter paper looks something like this, and it has very small pores in this, and these pores will not allow the impurities such as the soil or the particles of small stones or pebbles in our mixture to pass through these tiny pores, and it will allow only water to pass through it, and it will help you in filtration. So students, how we can conduct the process of filtration? Filtration can be done either by a sieve or a strainer, sieve that we have used for separating flour from the impurities, and strainer that we used to separate tea leaves from the liquid tea. But clearly we cannot use a sieve or a strainer to remove soil from water. So what we can use? We can use very fine cloth or filter paper. So filter paper we can use, and this filter paper is porous, that is, it has this filter paper is porous, that is, this filter paper has very tiny pores, and these tiny pores will allow the water to pass through it, whereas the larger impurities such as soil will be left behind in the filter paper, and you will get your filtered water. So how do we use this filter paper? In case that you do not have a filter paper, what you can do is you can take two or more tissue papers, because they are soft and they have tiny pores in them. You can take 3 or 4 papers, cut them in a circle, in the shape of circle. Now you will have to fold it like this. First fold will be like this. You will make semicircle, and then you will make one more fold like this, so that you obtain a shape of a cone. And finally, this is a funnel. You will place it. I have one more this piece of filter paper, and I have folded it in the form of a cone, and I am trying to fit it in this funnel. We will take a container, we will place it over here, and we'll try. Now we can observe again that our sample of this water and soil has this soil has settled down at the bottom with under the influence of gravity, and you can observe this process of sedimentation. Now you will carry out decantation and finally filtration using this filter paper. In this way, you can observe that all of the soil can be easily removed from the sample of water, and you will observe clear filtered water in your other container. This will take some time, and finally what you will have is a clear sample of water. So students, this is the way how filtration is carried out, and let me just be clear and tell you that what are the other areas that we need to carry out, where do we need to carry out the process of filtration. So filtration is used to separate pulp from fruits and vegetable juices. When you consume fruits and vegetable juice, they have a large amount of pulp, which is the fiber of these fruits and vegetables. It contains the fibers, and it can be separated from the juice using the process of filtration. And for this we can use the simple strainer that we use to filter tea leaves from tea. And we can also make use of fine cloth, as we have discussed, to separate cottage cheese or paneer. You can observe this. And do you know how cottage cheese is obtained? Do you know how cottage cheese is obtained? What you do, you take some, say, half liter of milk and you boil it. You can add a few drops of lemon to it, and you will obtain your cottage cheese. And you can use a fine cloth, and you can completely remove the cottage cheese from your milk. And this is and these are a few examples from daily life where we use the process of filtration. So students, in this session we have discussed sedimentation. And what was sedimentation? Sedimentation means settling down of undissolved particles such as soil in water. Then we have discussed decantation. Decantation means when once the insoluble substance settles down to the bottom, you can slightly tilt your container and remove water from the sediments. Then finally we have discussed the process of filtration, where the examples where filtration is used, and the process how we can carry out the process of filtration. And I hope that you would have understood the concept really well.